Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button before you leave, that helps out a great deal with my channel. Uh, I wanted to do something sort of fun today. You might notice that I'm wearing a Star Trek insignia on my shirt and that there's some Star Trek sort of paraphernalia behind me. I even have a communicator. The reason is because my wife is a Trekkie, and I thought today I was going to make her a Star Trek insignia pendant. So I hope that you enjoy this one. I think it'll be a fun one. I'm going to put a little blue topaz in the center of it, and it's kind of based off the next, Strange New Worlds is the new series of Star Trek, and I kind of like it too. But my wife is super nerdy Star Trek geek, so I think she'll like this one. But before we get started, I wanted to thank my subscribers. You guys are awesome. I get so many nice comments from you, and I really appreciate that. I love the suggestions, and thank you so much for the financial contributions. I really appreciate that too. My patrons over on Patreon, they are such a nice group of people as well. They are paying for my premium content, and I am super appreciative of that. Thank you so much. That helps out a great deal with supplies and stones and things like that. So thank you so much for that, you guys. You're awesome. With that being said, let's get started. So I picked out a little blue topaz, a little round blue topaz. I think it's 4 millimeters right here. Pick him up. So you can see that. It's a little bit more of a London blue. I was looking for a Swiss blue one this size, but I couldn't find one that was just kind of the right size. Let's look at what I drew up here, and then we'll probably start by making a little bezel for that. This is my design idea book. You should check out my merch store. I got some great stuff like this on there. The reason I like these ones is because of the graph paper that's built into it. Although it's not really graph paper, it's just the dots at the corners, so it makes it easy to keep things in proportion while you draw stuff. So this is kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to use 18 gauge silver sheet to do the outside border, but it's going to have some depth, like 7 millimeters deep. And then I'm going to put that blue topaz in a little bezel setting mounted at the top of a tube, and then I think I'm going to use 18 gauge sheet to make these little star points, and then taper them down by filing or sanding or whatever, maybe with a Dremel, we'll see. Probably filing first and then smoothing out with a Dremel. I think, however, when I drew this, the proportions are a little bit broad, so I'm going to narrow it down just a little bit when I make it. But I think it should be a pretty good, not too hard project. We'll see. For the bail, I'm just going to drill holes through there so a chain will go right through that like that, and then we should be good. So let's start by making a bezel today. This is a pretty small stone, so I'm gonna take my 3/16 inch fine silver bezel, 26 gauge, 28 gauge for this stuff. I'm gonna cut it down a little shorter because I don't need it quite that tall. So cut a little piece here. And even if I don't have it perfectly straight, I can just file it a little bit when I get it all done. So. Alright, that should be tall enough. If you've never seen my videos before, I use pretty much always hard silver sheet solder, as well as a flux called My-T-Flux. That's a spray-on flux. My wife used to make me go to those Star Trek conventions with her, which I didn't mind. They were kind of fun. People's costumes were always very impressive. People put a lot of time into those kinds of things sometimes. She always wanted me to dress up as a Klingon, but I never was enthused about wearing all that forehead makeup. Okay, in order to create a step for that little blue stone that I got, I'm going to use a little bit of 18 gauge wire that's round and make a couple of rings for it to sit on inside of the bezel. When you're doing a bezel for a faceted stone like this, the bottoms have a point, and so you can't really put them in a traditional bezel. You have to have a spot for that point to go. And so what we do is we create a little platform, or this is one of the ways you can do it. Create a little platform out of wire for it to sit on inside of there so the point can poke through. Just a little bit too big still. And I'm going to make two of these, one on top of the other one. I probably could get by with just one on this one because I'm going to mount this over the top of a tube. That'll work. Years ago we went to had what was called the Star Trek Experience in Las Vegas at the, I think it was at a Hilton, maybe the Hilton. They had a Star Trek themed ride there that you could take, and they had a bar set up to mimic the bar off of Deep Space Nine. It was cute and fun. It was there for a number of years, but it finally closed down. I think they timed it to be kind of in the middle of some of the show series, and it was kind of at a point when there was not an active series being played, if I remember right. Like after Deep Space Nine, but I guess Voyager might have been going on or something. For all of you non-Star Trek people, I apologize. Okay, so I just set it on some pieces of solder. We'll just heat it, same way we normally would around the outside after we got those two rings in there. Then I'm just going to file the bottom flat. Looks like that'll fit. I have to make some decisions about whether I want the stone to stick out of the top of the design or not, like here. I'm thinking it might be a lot easier if it sticks up just a tiny bit so I can get to it to set the stone. And obviously these star rays that come out, I want them to be as tall as this here, so they're about 7 millimeters tall, but I don't I don't want them to go all the way to the top of the bezel because that'll prevent me from being able to set the stone. So I might put them partway up the bezel, and had I had the right size tube, I could have done a tube bail, but this is just slightly too big. So, or a tube setting, sorry, bail. What am I talking about? To start with, I'm going to cut myself a piece that's just a little bit longer than this to work with. And so I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to saw it with a jeweler's saw. Okay, forgive me my messy area here. Alright, it's got a little piece. I'm going to try and file this so it's got a little bit of a flatter surface. My cutting skills are less good than my filing skills. If you haven't seen these things, these are called miter vise jigs. And they're very handy for getting nice straight edges on things, or 45-degree angle ones. It's got a slot that goes this way too, so you can file perfect 45s. I don't want to squeeze this too hard, otherwise it'll get squished. You can just take your file and file straight across until it's flush with the metal. Alright, so I think I'm going to cut some pieces of, I already cut a long strip of this at about 7 millimeters wide. This is 18 gauge sterling silver sheet. In order to make this star, I think I'm going to do one that way, and then just have little pieces projecting, and then I'm going to taper them down so they kind of come to a point, hopefully. Let me see something for a minute. This is a little piece of 16 gauge that I made a while back. I could get the big one off of this up top, and I might be able to get some of the other ones too. That only needs to be about that long. I feel like maybe 16 would be a little thicker at the base, so it'd be easier to see that it's a star shape. So I think I might do that. Let's see if I can get what I need off of this. I don't normally keep 16 around, and occasionally I'll make some out of some scrap, and that's what I did here, so because I wanted some thicker stuff for something else. I'm asking these poor little Fiskars shears to do more than they're designed to do. Think I can keep it upright while I solder it? That'll be an interesting try. Let's do that and see if we can get it to work. You could probably push this into a little magnesia block or something if you need to. If you're more of a sawing kind of person, that's okay too. I saw sometimes when I have to. feel like if I cut these two, or this one in half, I probably will have enough for those two. And then I may just use 18 gauge for those if I can't find a big enough piece. But I think this will be okay. I should be able to adjust the positioning of that as I add some solder to it. So. I think we'll pull that out and see how that looks. I think that's alright, I just need to do some filing to get those evened up. That shouldn't be too hard. That looks pretty good. See if we can't get that soldered on there. You may notice I do a lot of pick soldering in my videos. If you're interested in learning how to do that, it's one of those skills that takes you to kind of a new level. So I'll put a link up there for my pick soldering video. You should check it out. It's a really good skill to learn as far as advancing your abilities. It allows you to place solder very precisely and in just the amount that you want, which makes things much easier in some situations. That looks pretty good. Let's see if I got them straight up and down. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, actually. So I think I'm going to file it flat on top here, so I have an even surface to start with. And move this. The only thing I don't like about magnesia blocks is all the crumbliness that they create. Other than that, they're super useful. Start to see the shape a little bit. So I said I'm going to make this a little bit longer, so I'll probably cut these down a little bit shorter, and these I'll just have to see. But for this stuff, for the sides here, just need to make a slight curve. So I'm going to try and solder it together, like that. But I need to get these angles filed a little bit, like this. Pretty close to the right angle. That's pretty good. Before I do that, I was thinking it might be best to drill the hole first while it's flat. So I'm going to, I think what I'll do is I'll put these back to back like this and tape them together, and then I'll just drill a hole right down the middle of it. And we'll have to drill a hole through here too, but I don't think it's as critical on this one to get it, perfect. So we'll see. But either way, I'm going to drill a hole through that. So give me just one sec. Alrighty, let's get this guy soldered together. Let me see if I can get this all cut and filed the right way. I think probably I can cut this off. Cut it a little bit longer than I need. I think probably if I file this inside edge here to a nice angle like that, I should be able to solder those together nicely. So, let's see if I can't do that. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. I think, like I said, I'm gonna cut this one down a little bit. And then I'm going to have to do some tapering of these pieces of sheet here. So that's going to take me a little while. I'm going to do some of that off camera so you don't have to watch me do the same thing over and over again. I'm just going to be doing this for a while. So I've done some, like I said, I did some filing to taper these down from the base thicker to the ends thinner. And I also cut this shorter. I think I did that on camera, but I did this in order to, because I think how I'm going to mount this, I was originally going to mount it on all sides, but I think it looks better if it's floating partially. And so I wanted the chain to have room to pass through there. And I think I'm going to have to make that chain thing just a little bit deeper. But the other thing I was going to do is I want this to be set down inwards a little bit. So I'm going to try and grind out a little bit of space in there to drop this in, and then just solder it in before we do too much else. So let's go do that. I think I got it positioned pretty well. It's dropped down just a little bit. I don't want to do it too much more for fear I'll screw it up. Sticking out a little bit's okay. So let's see if we can get that soldered on there, and then we'll solder it in, and then we will pickle that thing. And I'm probably going to throw it in the tumbler to get inside of the nooks and crannies a little bit for a while, just to try and get it in there a little bit. I'm going to solder that in. So let's cut some fresh solder. Okay, here goes nothing. I wonder what the origin of that statement is. Okay. I'm going to throw that in the pickle and we'll let it sit for a while. Looks like the chain will go through there okay, probably. And then, like I said, I'll probably polish it and tumble it, and then we'll see how it comes out. I polished it and I threw it in the tumbler for a little while. Probably not long enough, but I'm going to go ahead and finish it up because I think it's time to finish it up. So I'm going to set this stone. I've already got it pretty much I filed the bezel down to the correct height. And then I do this differently than some people, but I'm going to use the flat side of the needle nose here to kind of like dimple it a little bit. Make sure it's still sitting flat, and then straight across from that first one, dimple it. Make sure it's flat, and then that side. I want to just keep doing this until it doesn't move at all anymore. This last stage is called burnishing. That's where I rub that top edge a little bit to smooth it out. Make sure it's tight down on the stone. Okay, so I'll do a little bit of final touch-up polishing on the top of that, and I'll put it on a chain and, you know, polish it up a little better, and then we'll take some pictures of it. So, okay, well, that was the Star Trek Insignia Pendant. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't too nerdy for you. If it wasn't too nerdy for you, would you mind hitting the like button before you leave? That helps out the channel a great deal. Why don't you take a few moments and peruse my main page on YouTube and check out the different videos. I'd love it if you subscribed. So, either way, take care, live long and prosper.